Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in WEDF history, the voice of the WEDF Frank Dawg is going to be interviewing various WEDF superstars. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. On this show, superstars that will be featured will be superstars including Oshujax, Eichorn, Danny Jackpot, Tang Man, Smokey. The list goes on and on and on. Possibly even Starr. If we can have someone voice for Suspect, possibly. But anyway, Oshujax, introduce yourself to the WEDF universe.
Now, Frank, let's be honest here right quick, okay? This is how I would talk to you normally, but since we're doing this in kayfabe sense, I talk a little something like this. See, I do this because I like differentiating myself between, people. When people want to get to know me as the wrestler, I talk like this because I embrace more of my southern upbringing, and I want people to know that this little backwoods kid from Alabama is a little country boy who'll get in that ring and whoop your ass if you look at him the wrong way.
Well, there you have it. Oshujax already sending a warning to the locker room. And speaking of that, what were your thoughts about being first signed to WEDF when you were signed to the then defunct developmental brand known as DCO?
Well, once I can hear what you're saying, when you stop stuttering so much, you ain't got to be nervous. I ain't going to hit you. You ain't somebody like Alberto Del Rio who deserves a little ass whooping for everything he's saying, for all he's doing with his little Mexican people in the cartel. When I thought about being signed to DCO, I was like, the hell am I doing in developmental? See, Frank, here's the thing about it. I've been destined for greatness ever since I was born. I've been working hard with my own two hands and to come into the biggest company and be handed a developmental contract. Yeah, I was pissed off. You know why? Because you look at all the other CAWs on there. There's only 3 on there at the time. There's Danny Jackpot, there's Suspect, there's Starr, and I felt I deserved to be on that main roster. And I got infuriated when I got signed to a developmental contract. You know why? Because I didn't want to be in developmental. Now, I want to be fighting the big dogs. I want to be running with the bulls right away because that's how I feel I should be. I don't feel like developmental, a feeder system, is good enough for me. I feel like I need to be in the spotlight at any and all times. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. You felt like you were kind of getting wasted facing people such as Gregory Black and competing in Battle Royals, getting eliminated first. And what do you think triggered that spark in you when you faced Goldust that one time?
Well, when I faced Goldust, because we all know Goldust is a little old country boy himself, once I got in that ring, I felt like I had something to prove. Because I felt everybody was looking at me the wrong way, and they said, man, this kid ain't going to make it. He ain't going to go nowhere. So you know what happens? I get a little fire in my belly. I get pissed off when people tell me I ain't going to be something. I can't do this. I can't do that. I ain't ever going to be anybody. Ain't nobody going to look at me any other way. Let me put it to you like this. If somebody like Danny Jackpot was in the main event, somebody who I knew for years, I've been running with him long before I ever signed in DCO.
GWA,
OCL, whatever you want to call it, either way. I've been running with him longer than that. And to be signed there and not be up there competing in that main event, it pissed me off. Especially when I was losing to these people. So I was like, how the hell have I been running with Danny Jackpot so long, proving myself against him well before I came to WEDF, and losing to people like Kalen Rogers and getting eliminated first in a battle royal, which nobody even won. Let me put it to you like this, Frank. Let me put it to you like this. That match with Goldust, I had something to prove because I wasn't going to sit there and let anybody talk trash about me. I was going to go in there and I was going to put my boot up Goldust's ass so hard, and I was going to break his head. Oh. I was going to break every single bone in his body. I was going to do anything I had to do to get the job done because I'm not going to sit here and let anybody judge me when I work too damn hard to get to where I'm at just to be on developmental.
And what did you think about Santino interrupting in that match?
What I think about Santino interrupting, I think Santino deserved every little bit he got. He tried to get in there, tried to get my business, tried to go out there and embarrass me, tried to turn it into a comedy show. Do I look like a comedian to you, Frank? I'm not here to tell a silly little joke to anybody. I'm not here trying to win anybody's affection at the time. I'm trying to beat somebody down so bad so I don't lose my spot, so I have a future to look forward to. So yeah. What did I think about Santino coming out there? I think he made the biggest mistake of his life. That's what I think.
And he got an ass whooping as a result, as you would say, good old fashioned ass whooping. But anyway, back to another question. When you were on DCO, you formed an alliance with another superstar named Matt Eichorn.
Yep.
What were your two goals on DCO to accomplish? What were you set to do when you tagged along with Matt Eichorn as you two ran roughshod when over DCO?
Well, Eichorn and I felt the same way. You know, we felt we were too small, or too big, excuse me, to be on a little small show like that. We both felt we should be on the main roster, especially when Eichorn was running with Suspect at the time, and they're in Damage Gauge, and he finally decides, fuck it, I'm going to turn my back on him, and I'm going to do it my way, because I don't care what anybody's got to say, I'm going to the top. And I said, you know what, I agree with you. So here's what we're going to do. We decided to get together because we decided we're just going to shut DCO down. We're going to give them the old ass whooping. We're going to take over. We're going to kill that brand. And then we're going to both go onto the main roster and do the same thing again on a bigger platform.
So what
And
was
you see how well that worked?
What was the deal for taking out Rick the Fisherman out of the Royal Rumble?
Because of all the people who were going to represent us, of all the people who was going to represent DCO, it was going to be some nobody that nobody cared about. Let me ask you something, Frank. Who wanted to see Rick the Fisherman at the time? Who? Nobody. Ain't nobody ever cared for Rick the Fisherman. Ain't nobody ever cared for Zoltar. Ain't nobody ever cared for Gregory Black. Nobody will care for Gregory Black, speaking of which, because of decisions he made. Still, out of all the people on DCO, there's only two names that anybody gave a damn about that wasn't already established like Suspect. Matt Eichorn and yours truly. And we felt it was bullshit that somebody like Rick the Fisherman, who ain't ever been in a situation like the Royal Rumble, or ain't even been running with bulls like Danny Jackpot and Suspect, we felt it was wrong that he's running with 29 of the thoroughbreds and we're not.
So basically, you felt like Rick the Fisherman was under deserving of competing in the Royal Rumble match over people like you or Matt Eichorn, or hell, even El Rojo Mexico, who became a 4-time television champion in the WEDF. What were your thoughts about El Rojo Mexico also being on DCO? Did you think he had a future of possibly becoming one of the decorated television champions of all time?
Well, I'll give it like this. I never thought he'd be as big as he was as television champion, but I knew that's as far as he was going to get. Truth be told, you know, even though he's a great little high flyer, I just never saw him having the charisma. I never saw him having the talent of a main eventer. I never saw him running with the bulls. I saw him feeding the bulls. I saw him, you know, helping the bulls develop into the big-time players. You know what I mean? I saw him more as a stepping stone. Because as time went on, like you saw when he went up against Kurt Angle some time ago this season, what happened to El Rojo Mexico? Kurt Angle went in there, whooped his ass, and it was that short. That simple.
I believe he made him tap out to the ankle lock, too.
Absolutely. Didn't even stand a chance.
Well, we'll get to Kurt Angle later in the future, later on in this interview. But anyway, during your run with Eichorn, when you came up to the WEDF roster, you all were looking to make an impact. What were your reasons for adding people like Zack Starr and Dolph Ziggler?
Well, Starr joined us. He felt the same way. Ziggler had nothing else to do. He felt the same way. Those two people agreed with us, and they liked what we were doing, and they wanted to join our cause, and they wanted to let it be known they're the future of the company, and they ain't going to let anybody else run them over or treat them like a sack of crap, especially when Starr got done the way he did after winning the United States Championship, then being forced to immediately defend it against MVP. While Dolph Ziggler, on the other hand, had been mishandled, misused by two arrogant little potheads and Jeff Hardy and Rob Van Dam at the time.
And not to mention, Dolph Ziggler really couldn't win that Intercontinental Championship. He went against people like Rob Van Dam and Jeff Hardy, Kofi Kingston, Danny Jackpot, along those names. He just couldn't get the job done. And when he joined your group, it seemed like he finally reached the next level there.
Yeah, because he got tired of being held down. That's what it was. He got tired of everybody overlooking him. That was the whole point of that little alliance. We got tired of everybody overlooking us. We got tired of being handed the short end of the stick. So you know what we did? We took what we wanted, and we did what we wanted to do because it was what had to be done at the time. Frank, look at us now. All four of us, still employed, still got a future.
Well, at one time, though, it looked like as if that group you formed was on the brink of destruction when Matt Eichorn decided, you know what, I'm tired of being overshadowed by three other people. I'm going to be my own man going over to Raw. What were your thoughts about Matt Eichorn's decisions? And do you ever regret those decisions, or do you applaud Eichorn for doing what he did?
No, I respect his decision. I respect it all entirely. You know why? Because he decided, all in all, our egos are going to blow up. And hell, at the time, I didn't even know half of what I was thinking. I was looking to make an impact at any and all times. And being that young back then, Frank, you really think anybody's going to understand half of what they're doing? Hell no. Especially not when they're set out on saving their careers and saving their tails more than they are on wrestling, making an impact. Eichorn did what he had to do because he felt it was the right move at the time, and I applauded him for it. So I followed his suit, and off we go on to, I believe it was Last Resort, where I decide, when I'm at the commentary table with you talking like this and calling a match between Danny and Kurt Angle, I decide, well, it's time to show the world the new Oshujax. Because I looked at that fall of a faction as the rebirth of the iconic Shaman. I became a new man that night, Frank. And I went out and I showed the one man who I knew would understand that better than anybody else, Danny Jackpot.
And you were calling out Danny Jackpot as a fraud, a man who's self-centered, who only cares about himself. And we all hate to say this, but you were right. You were right. Later on, Danny Jackpot turned his back on the fans, gained so much momentum, went on to WrestleMania 2, and won the World Heavyweight Championship in a triple threat. Albeit not clean, but he still picked up the scraps and won the match.
And I hate that, Frank. You know why? Because Danny took it, and he spun it around. He spun all that momentum around he had, where he finally decided to reveal his true colors and went up into the main event. While where am I? Nowhere near his level. Here's a man.
Well, you actually lost to him on the past Smackdown. Not to mention, where it just seemed like he was on another level, and you just seemed to drop. What do you? We'll get to that in a little bit later, but at that time, what were you thinking about doing with Danny Jackpot, when you were targeting him?
What I was thinking about, just how did I get myself in the situation I'm in? The faction falls apart. Eichorn just left me. Starr and Ziggler decide they're going to join suit and follow him. I'm left with nowhere to go. So what do? I take it out on the one man who I see as the whole blame for it, Danny Jackpot. You know why? Because I felt like at the time, really honestly, I felt like at the time, Danny was throwing me under the bus. Here's a guy who went to bat for me and got me on the roster to begin with, and what's he doing? He's leaving me out to dry.
So you kind of felt like Ryback right now with John Cena in WWE at that time.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because it's not like I stuck my neck out for Danny, but he stuck his neck out for me, and I went on my way, he went on his way, and all of a sudden, his little mention ain't really getting me nowhere. What's he doing after I'm struggling, after I'm trying to build a name for myself and build a rep? He ain't doing nothing. He's just focusing on Kurt Angle. Because boo-hoo-hoo, he got screwed out of the main event of WrestleMania over somebody who ran him over with a car at the time. And what's he doing? He ain't helping nobody. He's going into business for himself. That's what he's done since day one, Frank. He wants to sit there and say, well, I'm the greatest guy ever, and I care for the fans, and I love the fans, and fans love me, yada yada yada. And yet here you are saying you care about everybody, building yourself on this rep as a savior. Well, what did you do to save me, Danny? Not a damn thing. You didn't even lift a finger when you saw what I was doing on DCO and struggling. You didn't even lift a finger to say, what are you thinking about doing on DCO? No, you just let me do what I was doing, and it just happened that all I did as a part of that little faction on DCO, whose name I will not mention, all I did was move from a boat with a hole in it to a ship sinking faster than the Titanic.
So you kind of think that maybe Danny Jackpot did the same thing to his cousin Zack Starr too?
Oh yeah, I definitely think he did the same thing, because I think he's kind of two-faced. That makes sense. Yeah, you get to know him a little bit. He's a nice guy. He does some nice things for you. But when you get in his world, when you start threatening his territory, he gets defensive. He don't like people stepping in on his territory. He don't like people taking what belongs to him. And that's why he's felt over the past few years, every single time he's been in the main event, he's deserved to be there, while everybody else has just sunken under him. And he's kept it that way. He has spun himself in a way where he is so high right now, nobody can get to him. But I'm letting him know, every single day I climb up the ladder, I'm getting one step closer to throwing him overboard. I say it's time for a new change, and these fans know it. They know I've been working too hard. They know I've been working too long to be sitting down where I'm at, Frank.
So speaking of which, at one point after your run with Danny, you decided, even though you had some personal differences with some of the people in the group, to join the Angle Alliance. What was the reason for joining the Angle Alliance at that time?
Well, you figure you'd join the Angle Alliance because you know how Kurt Angle is, multiple-time world champion, former Olympic wrestler. You think you go in, it's kind of like learning from somebody. I don't know what the saying is about it, but it's kind of like, I don't know how to say it, but it was something with a tree and about wisdom. I don't know. Basically, it's like you think he'll take you under his wing. You think he'll show you little few things here and there, and you think you'll get used to being in the ring, and you think you'll really improve from being around a guy like Kurt Angle. You don't really improve from being around Kurt Angle, because you know what happens when you start trying to improve? He does like Danny Jackpot did to everybody else he's ever met. He cuts you loose and says, I don't want to do this.
That's kind of how the Angle Alliance fell apart.
That is how it fell apart, because Kurt Angle got all paranoid. That's what happened. He saw what I was doing with Danny Jackpot. He saw I had an opportunity to chase after a world title. Know what he does? He decides, nope, you're done. See ya. I don't support you at all. You're gone. Bye. Because I'm sitting here making my own name. I'm sitting here learning from Kurt Angle and catching momentum I had never caught before the Angle Alliance ever happened. And you know what happens? You know, he brings it. It's like how Vince McMahon and the Ultimate Warrior relationship with. You know, you bring in a man who's struggling, homeless. You bring him into his home. He dresses you up real nice. He gives you a sleep. He gives you a hot meal. You get to stay there a while. You get all comfortable and accommodated. Then to repay your efforts, he slaps you in the face and kicks you out.
And I believe you actually left the group before he could kick you out. Wasn't that true, or was that Zack Starr that did that? I don't.
No, they kicked me out.
And Zack Starr. So Zack Starr was the one who left on his own terms.
Because Starr realized that if they're gonna do that to me, he even came and told me about it. He's like, well, shit, they did that to you. Fuck it. I'm leaving. See ya. I don't want to deal with this group if they're going to plan on doing that to you. Because I know they're going to do the same thing to me if they did it to you. And he did the right thing. He did the absolute right thing getting away from them at the time.
After leaving the Angle Alliance, you were still commentating. We'll get to that on a later time. But you started pursuing the Intercontinental Championship along with Starr. What were your goals then to make a statement by winning your first singles goal in the WEDF? How would that have been seen by the WEDF universe at that time?
Well, I figure I already got a foot in the door, Frank. I already figured the fans know me at the time. They don't like me. They don't like anything I got to say. They don't like how I roll. And that's fine back then because I'm dumb and I don't know half of what I'm doing. And I don't care because I don't care what you got to say about me. I don't care what you have to say against me. I don't care if you're 7 feet tall, 500 pounds, or 5 feet tall, 165. I don't care how tall, how small, how fast, how strong, how smart, how dumb, how big you are back then. If you were in my way, I was going to mow you down. And I didn't care what I had to do it because I was going to get my way and you were either going to love it or hate it.
Is that why I'm sorry I have to bring this up. Is that why during your match with Rey Mysterio, you called out Danny in the middle of the match and Rey Mysterio beat you with a 619?
I called him out because I wanted him to understand something at the time, Frank. Of course, that's inexperience, of course, as you say. You don't ever do that during the match because then you know what happens? Somebody recovers. I called out Danny because I had Rey Mysterio beat down so bad and I wanted Danny to make sure he understood that what I was doing to Rey Mysterio was nothing compared to the hell that awaited him. Anything I was doing to Rey Mysterio at the time, Danny was going to get it tenfold and he was going to get it a lot worse, and you can rest assured he did.
Well, that's an interesting point to bring up. So back to now the Intercontinental title chase. You were in it with Bobby Lashley along with Starr, and you won at the Royal Rumble, beating Bobby Lashley clean as a sheet. What were your thoughts after winning the Intercontinental Championship and finally beating Bobby Lashley when he had your number in the past?
That's one. That's what I'm thinking to myself. I'm thinking that's one. Intercontinental Championship, check. World Tag Team Championships at the time, check. Hardcore title, check. There's only one title left for me to win now, but while I got this Intercontinental Championship, I have a chip on my shoulder at the time, Frank. Because as the Intercontinental Champion, I've also realized that some people will look at me and look at my track record and say, well, Oshujax ain't going to be champion for long. He ain't going to get past the first month. I give him 2 weeks or Lashley takes that belt back from him.
And the only reason why Lashley might have had a strong chance to win it back is Alberto Del Rio, a man you're actually having problems with right now. But we'll get to Alberto Del Rio in just a second. We'll go on now to WrestleMania 2, where you are now in the spotlight. Back at WrestleMania 1, you were actually in Matt Eichorn's corner, and now a year later, you're in a match defending the Intercontinental Championship against 3 other up-and-comers, Evan Bourne, Dolph Ziggler, and not an up-and-comer really, but a veteran at the time, Rob Van Dam, who was holding the Intercontinental title a year ago. What were your thoughts going into WrestleMania 2, and did you have any goosebumps or regrets or anything like that?
Well, let me put it to you like this. You brought up WrestleMania 1, Frank. WrestleMania 1, I was sitting there, I was supporting Matt Eichorn because it was the right thing to do at the time. WrestleMania 2, I get to thinking about WrestleMania 1, I'm thinking, what the hell was I doing? I was sitting shotgun in the passenger seat. I was letting Matt Eichorn take the spotlight from me and win a match that I could have won myself or I should have been involved with rather than just being at ringside.
So really at that time you kind of felt like that you were the lackey there.
I felt like I was in his shadow. And I didn't like it. That's where I realized right there I know exactly how Eichorn felt. And why he left. Around then I realized that I got the Intercontinental Championship. I'm in the spotlight. I'm in the driver's seat. I have to make this happen. And I got a chip on my shoulder bigger than the state of Texas, and that's for sure at the time. And the reason I had that chip on my shoulder is because I'm thinking when I've got this Intercontinental Championship, I want to make an impression. Because I want these people to understand that I am the biggest superstar in WEDF, whether you like it or not. Don't care what your mama has to say about it. Don't care what any other wrestler has to tell you. Don't even care what you tell them. As the Mr. Voice of WEDF, I'm the voice of CAW as it is. I'm the truth. I tell it like it is in black and white, both sides involved, and whether you like it or not, I don't care. Because let me put it to you like this. If anybody was going to sit there and tell me you're not going to hold that Intercontinental title for more than a week, I was going to stand in their face, slap them in the mouth, and prove them wrong. And that's where when I had three of those guys at the same time, three guys like Evan Bourne, Dolph Ziggler, and Rob Van Dam, didn't care how experienced they were, didn't care how much momentum they had, didn't care what they did or who they were or what they had done beforehand. I had the Intercontinental Championship in my possession, and I was going to do anything it took to stay Intercontinental Champion from the start of the night to the end of the night. And look what happened. Look at the impact I made. You name any other person who had that much doubt like I had, then went in there and single-handedly eliminated all three of them at one point. Can you name anybody who did that, Frank?
The only person I can really name but he was established, it was Summerfest when Kane eliminated 5-man in the TV title match. But really, there's not many up-and-comers I can really think of, if any at all, that made such an impact in a short amount of time ever since winning the Intercontinental title. You had a chip on your shoulder. You wanted to prove something. You wanted to prove that you were up-and-coming and wanted to be the best in the world at what you did.
I didn't want to be the best in the world. That's the problem, Frank. It's not that I wanted to be. It's that I felt I was. I feel I am. I'm not going to sit there and let anybody tell me different when I know they're fucking lying. That's the way I'm going to put it to you. That's how I felt. I felt like I was the best at the time. And I sat there with that Intercontinental Championship on my shoulder, and I said, bring on the whole world. Bring on the U.S. Army. Bring on the SWAT team. Bring on every single military force you can mobilize at the time. Because I'm going to mow them all down, and I'm going to go through hellfire and brimstone. And after I do that, what am I still going to have at the end of the day? The Intercontinental Championship. And that's exactly what happened for 580 days straight.
560.
560, whatever.
It got so long that we even lost track of the days.
That's right. That's how it was. That's how it always was. You name somebody else other than Honky Tonk Man himself, who's got long sideburns and his hair slicked back and shakes, rattles, and rolls like nobody else. Well, name one other person who could do that. Nobody.
Among Honky Tonk Man, you wanted to go to the next level. So basically, let's go back to your Intercontinental title reign. While you were still the champion, you actually grew some respect for your performers. And it all started when you faced Zack Ryder in that epic ladder match that we can never forget about.
Well, it also comes with maturity at the time, Frank, because as I was doing on commentary with you, I realized, talking, how do I put it, unbiased on Monday Night Raw, I realized I like doing this thing. I like good wrestling. I like the admiration of the people. And at the time, people liked me. I'm sitting there being arrogant asshole number 97, and I realized to myself, I don't ever do nice. I don't ever do evil nice. You know what I mean?
Right.
I do mad, pissed off at the world like nobody else. Evil? I ain't gonna sit there and hold a gun at somebody's head and say, give me the world title. I don't have... I ain't got a mean bone in my body. That's what I realized, Frank. I realized I like being the nice guy too much. I just like being a good guy. I could never do anything wrong. It came up with my upbringing, too. I grew up a good old country boy in Mobile, Alabama, and was raised right by my daddy. Worked hard with my own 2 hands, and I never got in any trouble, never been arrested, never did anything against the law, never.
So when you faced Zack Ryder in that ladder match, you must have gained some respect for your competitors at that time, shaking his hand.
Well, of course, still at the time, I'm thinking before then, because everybody saw, well, Jack still had a little bit of an attitude there. Thing about it is, Zack Ryder showed me something in that ladder match. He was a young up-and-comer like I was. A young lion working his way up the ranks. And when he showed me what he showed me in that ladder match, because, boy, we know Ryder really wanted that ladder match, because boy's a big fan of Shawn Michaels. He won't tell you that in person, but he'll tell everybody else around the world. Zack Ryder was the biggest Shawn Michaels fan I could think of at the time, and he wanted to do it like Shawn. He wanted to go out there. He wanted to win it in a ladder match because he felt Shawn Michaels was his idol, and he wanted to pay a little tribute to him, and he wanted to show the whole world also that his time is coming, that he ain't just some spiked up, wannabe musclehead Jersey Shore Guido. He is Zack Ryder, and he is going to be a main eventer whether you love him or hate him. So that's why I respected him there, because I realized, isn't that just like me, Frank? Isn't that just like me last season? The young up-and-comer trying to be somebody, trying to become somebody, but not knowing exactly where to go.
You were, at that time, when you were that up-and-comer, you were being someone that you were not at that time. If you want to agree with me or disagree.
That's how I would put it, yeah. Because I'm sitting there, I'm being arrogant asshole number 97, like I said, and I don't really like doing that. And once I realized, I've been here long enough to know that I'm at the point where I don't have to strive to be somebody that I can't be. I can just be myself, connect with the fans on a better level, and I think the fans gained a bigger admiration for me and Zack that night. Because not only did Zack go out there, give his heart and soul, and try to make himself famous against the Intercontinental Champion, they suddenly realized Shaman's got heart.
That's very true indeed. And then after other title defenses against the likes of Kofi Kingston and making him pass out, Kofi showed heart there. They even grew. They even gave you even more respect for your performers. The fact that Kofi didn't want to die facing you for that Intercontinental title, and then you beating Jack Swagger, albeit thanks to The Rock.
I let Rocky know. I wanted to let you know right now. Off the camera, I went up to The Rock and I looked him in the face and I said, "Don't ever do that again." Because I wanted to prove myself against Swagger. I wanted to beat Swagger the right way. I didn't want anybody getting in my business. Because at this time, I'm thinking right now, I'm at a point where I want to do things myself. If I can't do it myself, no way do I deserve the Intercontinental Championship. No way do I deserve to be where I'm at if I can't do things by myself. And then I had to have Rock come out there, hold my damn hand, and let me keep the Intercontinental Championship by the grace of God. I liked it because I won the match, but I hated it because at the same time, it's a tainted victory.
And at that time, though, it looked like that maybe Jack Swagger could have taken that Intercontinental title, and we never know what the result would have been if Rock hadn't interfered. But anyway.
That's my point. That's why I wanted to face Swagger one-on-one. I wanted to face him again during that 560-day run. I wanted to face him again because I wasn't going to have it. And I wanted to face Lashley again, too. But, Bobby Lashley went to Monday Night Raw, and there ain't much you can do about it when he's setting his sights on bigger prizes anyway.
But anyway, when you were after you beat the likes of Kofi Kingston, Ryder, and others, out comes Brock Lesnar.
And I'm thinking to myself at the time, shit. Because here comes somebody who's going to eat me for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So what were your thoughts when Brock Lesnar beat your longtime friend Smokey to become #1 contender for your Intercontinental Championship at WEDF Rebellion? What were you thinking? Was it possibly your last night holding that title?
I'm thinking,
I'm not even. Brock Lesnar busted not just you, but Smokey in a tag match involving Cody Rhodes.
Look, I'm not even thinking about what happens if I lose at the time. I'm thinking it's another brick in the wall. It's another challenge. It's another obstacle in my way. Once I saw Lesnar win, I just said, here we go. Because it was going to be the toughest challenge I had at the time, Frank. And you talk about Kofi. Kofi was a former WEDF champion. But I was able to keep up with him. Lesnar, that is a whole nother monster, Jack. That is a man who has been all around the world. IWGP Heavyweight Champion. WWE Champion. UFC Heavyweight Champion of the world. Everything Brock Lesnar had done in his career, he dominated it, he redefined it, he did it.
And at that time when you were facing Lesnar, the man had actually been on a downswing of his career and has finally unleashed his inner monster when he was facing Smokey and getting back on the right track. And you're thinking, oh my, this Lesnar, he's hungry again. He's determined again. He's as focused as I am.
That's what I was thinking at the time. I saw in Season 2 he'd been facing the big opponents, hadn't really had anything to prove, and lost almost all the damn lost in all the matches of guys he had problems with. Then I find out he's motivated. I'm thinking to myself, now why the hell? Why now all of a sudden does Brock Lesnar light a fire under his ass? So I sit there and think to myself, I'm thinking, either Lesnar's trying to make a point out of me, or Lesnar's trying to go through me to prove to the world that he's better than, he's the biggest, baddest dude on the planet. That's where I say to myself, Frank, that's where I say, oh, hell no. Because here I am with my red hot southern...
Though, he was actually manhandling you, too, against numerous occasions.
Well, here's what I was saying to that, too, because at the time, here's this hot-blooded, pissed off some bitch on me each and every single day with all my red, hot-blooded southern temper. Do you know how us southerners get, Frank? You know how me and Smokey get. You've been around us long enough to know. These two boys from the heart of Dixie got anger problems like nobody else. I'm sitting here, I'm charging in, I'm trying to fight them, I'm trying to take them all head up because I'm letting them know, yeah, you'll kick my ass, but here's the thing about it. I'm going to go down swinging. You're going to have to take it from me. I'm not going to give it to you. Because at the time, I'm not thinking about, well, what happens if it's my last night? Well, what happens if you lose? I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking win. I'm thinking W. I'm thinking next number defense. I'm thinking...
Just like Al Davis. Just win, baby.
Well, I wouldn't put it like that because I'm not really a Raiders fan, so to say. I'm more of a Saints and the Ravens kind of guy, if you ask me.
Alabama.
I wasn't even thinking it was like Ray Lewis, like it was going to be my last ride. I'm just thinking I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to put it all out in the ring, and I'm going to fight like hell to make sure I get through the next night.
And during that match with Lesnar, you took some of the craziest risks I have ever seen from a man who is 6'8", nearly 300 pounds, just soaring through the air, going vintage Undertaker style against Brock Lesnar, suicide dive.
That's what you got to do. You realize I realized my back's against the wall, so I have to pull out every little trick in the book. And that was actually the first time I did something like that. Frank, did you know that? Yeah, that was the first time I did a no-handed somersault plancha like I did. First time I did that, legit.
And I thought you were going to break your neck doing that move. I hate to say it, but anyway, during that match, at the end, Lesnar looked like he about had you pass out or tap out to the Hell's Gate, similar to the Undertaker, which Lesnar beat the Manhandle at Summerfest. How were you able to counter that Hell's Gate maneuver into a pin? Were you watching some old angle tapes or something?
I wasn't going to say angle tapes. I was just looking at how they applied the omoplata, because I knew that was going to be a move he was going to go for. If he wasn't going to go for the omoplata, he was going to go for the Kimura. I was thinking it was omoplata first, because I know he's not going to try to pull out the Kimura yet. at the time. I'm thinking he's not smart enough to try the Kimura. I don't think anybody let him do it. You know, I think at the time they said no to him doing it. But I don't think he cares anymore. Whatever fines may come his way, either way. I'm thinking, so the one thing I want to avoid is the omoplata. The omoplata is a move where he's going to have me on the ground. He's going to be back first. But he's going to have me tight and he's going to try to choke me out. And I was blacking out. But thank God you even mentioned this. I remember. No Way Out 2006 from WWE. Or not 2006. It was 2000. No, wait, was it? Yeah, no.
2006.
Yeah, it was 2006. World Heavyweight Championship. Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker. Undertaker has Angle in a little triangle choke, sort of like the omoplata. Angle flips out of it. Gets him in a little pin. 1, 2, 3. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm hurt all over. I'm almost out of breath. I don't know if I got enough energy to try, but I got one shot to do it. And if I mess up, if I don't flip over right, he's the new Intercontinental Champion. And just as I'm about to black out, I realize I got no choice. I got to go for it. I managed to flip up, turn him over right. He loses his grip. I've got his legs. Arms are down. He's struggling to get out of there. I get the 3 count and I run. I gun it.
So at that time, was that a lucky break right there? Or was that legit? Or what were you thinking at that time once you retained? What were you thinking? Wow, I'm glad I got past this.
I'm thinking, holy shit, that worked. It worked better than I thought it would have because he lost his grip. I got his legs. His shoulders are down. He's thrashing around because he doesn't know what the hell to do. That's a good thing about Lesnar, too. He's not really the intelligent type, so to say. He's not really savvy, if that makes sense. I've just seen his work, and I know how he is in the ring. He's more of a guy who's going to whip your ass any way he can. He's a predator. You know, the one thing about Lesnar is violence. That is violence. Not, what I had there, that was intellect. That was a last-minute desperation maneuver that I knew was either going to make me or break me, because if he kicks out of this, what do I do? Thankfully enough, that one quick move, Lesnar doesn't know what the hell's going on. 1, 2, 3. I'm thinking to myself, that really worked. And it worked a lot better than I thought, because hell, you look at me as the Intercontinental Champion, I think everybody saw me in England. They saw I had the biggest shit-eating grin on my face, and they were sitting there like, you son of a bitch. And yet, you know what else? There came a backlash with it too, Frank. Because I know a lot of people looked at it as I won by the skin of my teeth, and I did see the backlash of it. I saw some people going like, you know, oh, bullshit over this. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't deserve to win. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. You know what, Frank? That kind of sets me off a little bit. Because Danny Jackpot, guy who nobody really likes because of his attitude problems, but yet a guy who everybody, including the boys in the back, respect because of all the hard work he's put in and whatnot and proved himself against great competitors and whatnot. Every bone he got thrown his way in terms of a competitive match, everybody looked at him and said, this guy can hang. Matt Eichorn, same thing. He's even sitting there disrespecting the fans for having an opinion about wrestlers. And hell, there's even people like Brian and Ryder, both of them would want to work with Eichorn. Both of them would probably give an arm if they could get in the ring with Matt Eichorn just to see what he's all about. But he don't want to work with them because his own ego's too damn big, and he don't want to sit there and work with them because he feels like if he loses to them, he loses to the fans' so-called idols. And I'm just like, it's wrestling, dude.
Well, Eichorn did beat Brian one time.
Still, it's wrestling. You win some, you lose some. It's like the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and every other sport. You don't win all the time. Nobody's going to be the 72 Dolphins or be anywhere close to the 07 Patriots. Before the Super Bowl, of course.
Of course. But anyway, after that loss to Brock Lesnar, you saw that might have been a huge mistake right there And
Well,
because
in the ring with him again, you mean? But back to where I was before we get there. I'll get to your point right after this. See, you know, the point I had before you cut me off there, those two, nobody likes them. But they're sitting there, they're getting some admiration and respect for what they do. Here I am, being the nice guy, you know, hanging out with all the fans, doing everything for them, and really listening to everybody, and just being the overall calm and mood, and just trying to really go my own way and do things right, do like I was taught. Every little competitive match I got thrown my way, especially against somebody like Lesnar, because of course Danny and Eichorn, they faced a few big talents, and they really got made in the stars in a couple people's eyes. Here I am, I beat Lesnar. Oh, bullshit, you shouldn't have done that. Oh, hell no. There ain't no way Oshujax is legit. He couldn't have beat Brock Lesnar like that. And I'm sitting there like, what's the double standard here, folks? So I do everything for you. I get one bone thrown my way with a competitive match against the likes of Brock Lesnar. And I get nothing out of it. I get a, oh, bullshit, fluke victory. While Danny Jackpot and Matt Eichorn can go against guys like Steve Austin, go out flat on their back, and suddenly they're heroes. How does that make sense?
it's like they treated your win as a fluke victory, and then at King of the Ring, in Lester's own playground, Lester kind of and backed up their words when he flat out just manhandled you, which I've never seen before. After that loss to Brock Lesnar, what were you thinking through your career? Were you thinking that were you thinking anything mentally or physically?
I take something like that very personally, Frank, because at the time I was on a roll. Truth be told, I was rolling on a high wave of momentum. Here I was facing guys like HBK at the time, really getting myself up there and on the map. And then the Lesnar match in the cage happens, which I knew I was probably going to be screwed way worse than I was at Rebellion, because this boy fought in cages. Fought in cages for years.
That was his own playground. That was the match that he beat Chris Jericho in at WrestleMania 1. Not just beat him. Chris Jericho was bleeding like a stuffed pig in that match.
Yeah, that's the point I had, though, is that, you know, with him being trained in MMA and you being stuck in the cage and him with that big old shit-eating grin on his face, there's only one choice you got. That's fight. You ain't going to turn and run because you know what's going to happen? He's going to get right back up. He's going to pull you down off that cage. He's going to slam the door in your face. He's going to toss you from wall to wall because you're in his world. And there ain't nothing you can do about it other than fight him. I knew I was going to go down swinging then because I knew in the cage I'm screwed. But, you know, I know the criticism got validated in that match because I saw, you know, people saying, you know, as I passed by, they're like, man, I'm so glad Brock Lesnar whooped up on Oshujax. Man, I'm so glad he really whooped that boy. He had no chance against him. And I'm sitting there like, just wonder what the hell do I do? I look up to the sky. I'm like, God, I don't even know the answer right now, you know. I'm sitting here broken down, walking down the street with my hands in my pocket, looking down at the ground, not knowing what the hell to do, because I'm standing at a crossroads right now, Frank. I'm thinking, well, what do I do to be in the right? What do I do to, you know, really
regain that focus?
Regain the focus, shut down the criticism, and get things right, because I know people looked at that first Lesnar match like, you know, you didn't deserve to win it. And then they looked at the second match, and they're like, you got an ass whooping. Well, you didn't have much time to decide then, because guess who's waiting for you at Summerfest? Cody Rhodes.
And Cody Rhodes at that time was kind of like you weren't away. He was hungry, ready to be determined, ready to end that reign, and he showed no respect to you at all, no respect to his performers.
Why should he? At the time, he's not gonna care. He's not gonna care about me. He's not gonna care about what I've done. If I was in his spot, I'd be acting the same way, and everybody knows it. Everybody knows Cody Rhodes when he says he's gonna give that title a facelift. And I really don't like the way he goes about doing things, but I do admit, that little change he had to the title looks pretty sleek. Wish I had it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's another story. That's not the one I want anyway. Everybody knows the one I want. Forget about how nice the Intercontinental title looks. I had one before. I don't want it again. I'm on to the next challenge.
World Heavyweight Championship and the Grand Slam champion.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, after Summerfest, we'll get to that in a little bit. But you had that strong run with the Intercontinental Championship. During that reign, you actually faced Shawn Michaels in a champion versus champion match. What was it like being in the ring with one of the best legends, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, and taking him to the absolute limit? And what did you learn from him?
He still got it. He still got it. That's the first thing I got to say about Shawn. Everybody ever doubts, his talent in that ring. That dude might be 50 years old, but he still moves like he's 30. I'll tell you that, Frank. In that ring, he's 20 years younger than he appears to be. Let's put it like that about how well he is in the ring. I guess what I learned from him is that you gotta sacrifice a lot to be world heavyweight champion, and I think that's sort of the mistake I made as Intercontinental champion. Because here I am, 560 days, chip on my shoulder. And I'm thinking to myself, because, I have the Intercontinental title at the time. Another thing about it I forgot to mention, once I see I'm at like 150, 200 days, I'm thinking to myself, here's Danny's record at 360 something, I don't know, or 330 or something like that. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I want to beat that record. I want to smash it. I want to own that record. I want to be the record. And I did it. I wish I would have been involved in a little more fighting, but I don't know if Brett just kind of didn't know me at the time, or if he didn't want to put me in the ring, and just because, Brett's got that old school mentality where he kind of, if he can, he likes to protect his champions and doesn't want to have them appear in matches too much. Want to make it like a little special attraction, if that makes sense. But he sort of changed on that, I guess. But at the time, I just didn't get that much in-ring action. I'm sitting there to myself thinking, Brett, what are you doing? And I see the critics are sitting there adding it up. They're like, Oshujax doesn't get much matches. He's commentating more on Raw than he's wrestling on SmackDown.
Exactly.
And that's where I think all the criticism comes to a head. Because that's where I realize, that's the main problem. Everybody sits there, they're like, well, Oshujax, you don't really deserve that Intercontinental Championship. You shouldn't be in the ring with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar should whoop your ass. You know why? Because you ain't been in the ring that much. While guys like Danny Jackpot, Matt Eichorn, and Evan O'Shea, and Starr, and the Suspect, they're all sitting there having matches consistently. And while Jackpot and Eichorn in particular keep having match of the night with whoever's in the ring with them, what do I get out of it? I get calling The Miz's bullshit on Raw. I get mad as hell over what he's doing, and I should, and so should anybody else, to be honest with you. But I'm sitting there being more notable as a commentator, but not as a wrestler.
So, what were your thoughts on people wanting you to go after The Miz at the time when you were a Smackdown Superstar?
Well, I'm thinking at the time I could if I would, but I don't because of reasons.
Which reasons would those be?
The reasons being, I just don't want to cross that line because there's a line between Raw and SmackDown that I don't think.
Were you afraid of The Miz?
No, of course not. I was ready to get in the ring with The Miz at any and all costs, you see. I wanted to face Miz. I wanted to fight him, but I felt like it wasn't my place. You don't get involved in another man's business because you know what happens? You create more trouble for yourself.
And who knows what would have happened for your Intercontinental title around SmackDown if you decided to get in Miz's business. I mean, The Miz, he's the man that took me out, took Vince McMahon out, took then Mick Foley out, John Morrison, security, referees, the list goes on and on. At that point, he was one of the most dangerous men in the WEDF.
And I wasn't afraid of the danger, though. I felt like Austin did. I don't care how tough you are. I don't care what you got to say. You're just another punk. And if you want to get in my face and do this like you're going to do it, I'm going to mow you down. I'm going to beat you up. I'm going to show you who the real man of the ring is. I wanted to do that to The Miz. You don't know how many times I had my fist cocked back, ready to just shove it down his throat and show him what for. You don't know how bad I wanted to do it, Frank, but I didn't. Because every time I did, I hear myself thinking, do I really want to do this? Because if I do this and I go back to SmackDown, Bret Hart's going to be like, the hell you doing? Causing fights on Raw and getting involved in business that ain't yours, and you're my Intercontinental Champion on SmackDown. I can't send you over to Raw when you got the belt. What are you doing? We have a brand split. You should be focusing on this more than you should be focusing on that. If you're going to get so pissed off at that, you might as well stay here on SmackDown. And that's where I'm thinking right now. Now, why didn't I listen to him before? Because that right there, that whole thing just made sense. I now see why I'm in the position I'm in, Frank. Because I think everybody wants to look at me and they see a commentator. They don't see a main eventer. They don't see a guy who's going to be facing the likes of Jackpot, Michaels, Punk, Taker, Lesnar, Austin, Goldberg, Henry, Hardy, Miz. Name goes on and on for all the list of main eventers we got here.
Morrison,
they don't see They don't see me running with the Bulls. They see me as the guy calling the guys running with the Bulls.
So I would like to bring up my next question is, what are your reasons why you decided to stop commentating?
That whole reason I just laid out right there. Because the thing of it is, Frank, when I first signed to WEDF, I thought to myself, you know, do I want to be a la Jim Ross? Do I want to be a Gordon Soley, a Joey Styles? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do I want to be a memorable voice? No, I don't. Well, I do. I do want people to hear my voice, but I don't want them to hear it like, you know, from the booth. I don't want to sit there with a headset on calling the action. I want to be the action. I want to be the CM Punk. I want to be the Jeff Hardy. I want to be the John Cena. I want to be the Dynasty.
And you're
I want to be in the
fortunate.
middle of that ring with you or somebody else calling that main event and saying, and Oshujax is finally World Heavyweight Champion.
Unfortunately, you are able to do that. As me, as a commentator and a broadcast journalist, I'm unable to get in that ring and wrestle. I love to get in possibly be in a Royal Rumble match, but
don't get your hopes up, please. Because if you're in that ring with me, I'm gonna mow you over. Don't care who you are, Frank. Because
we also
really waste one of those 40 spots.
And we all saw what happened to Michael Cole against in the Royal Rumble, and then against Tang Man on ECCW. He got destroyed.
That's why I'm saying if you want to waste one of those 40 spots to do something that's stupid and asinine like that, you go ahead.
I might even break Santino Marella's record. But anyway, this is about you, not me.
Still. Anyway, still though, you sit there at the time after you lose the Intercontinental Championship to Cody Rhodes, and he beat me. I ain't gonna take it away from him. He beat me fair and square. You can't take that away from Cody Rhodes. I went in there, I tried, and I even said it to you like I said about Lesnar. Go down swinging. I went in there not 100%. Sure, Lesnar beat me up, and doctors checked me. They said I wasn't 100%. But I sat there telling Docs and Bret Hart, and Bret wouldn't even push the match back because he was scared. I said, no, you keep going with it. I'm going to lose this damn thing like a man. I don't want a handout. Either I win this thing as I am right now, or I just go ahead and give him the damn title.
And you didn't want to go up swinging like that. Hell, even before your match with Lesnar, King of the Ring, you defended that Intercontinental title against Daniel Bryan.
And speaking of Bryan, you know, I've gotten to know Bryan a little personally, just as a competitor. It ain't been nothing, you know, like I know his eating habits or what
Maybe.
No, I don't. I don't even mess around with that. I thought about it, but I hadn't. I know he's a yes man and all, but I don't want to have that
Maybe.
kind of conversation with him. I don't know everything about him, but I go to him for, you know, in-ring advice. You know, I feel like Bryan's one of the better technical wrestlers, and I feel like I need to sharpen up. And even though I'm a big man, I should be throwing people around. It's always nice to work with somebody like Bryan because he'll show you a little something you ain't even used to seeing.
You mean you delivering shin kicks around the ring?
No. Frank, come on now. You know he does more than shin kicks.
I know that, but
You know it.
ever since then, you've been becoming a little bit more aggressive in the ring and showing more technicality when you were facing people like Chavo Guerrero and Hunico.
Well, that's because I feel like, you know, I feel I learn better from people who do it better, if that
You've been
makes sense.
actually teaming up with Daniel Bryan recently. Now, you've been embroiled in a rivalry with Alberto Del Rio. He and his cartel took you out, leaving Daniel Bryan defenseless. What were you thinking then? Because Daniel Bryan was counting on you to help him out getting a television championship opportunity at Scars and Stripes.
I'm thinking, shit, at the time. Because the cartel got me from behind, bunch of bitches. And I was sitting there being tended to by the medics. I'm trying to fight them off me. They got a good grip on me. Because you know me, Frank. I'd rather go out there holding my damn ribs and fucking do a little limp walk to the ring. I don't even care if I have to crawl on both my hands and knees. I'd rather be in the ring with Bryan. I think Bryan knows that too. And I think, you know, he looked back and he's like, where were you? I told him, I said, cartel jumped me from behind, man. Ain't nothing I can do about that. And I'm sitting here trying to fight off the medics, and as soon as I finally get to the curtain, he's already won the match.
And Bryan gave an effort in that match, and if you were there, who knows what would have happened? You might have laid the smackdown on his candy yet. Wait, that's the wrong person. But anyway,
The whole thing with Del Rio, anyway. You never even asked me what that's all about.
Yeah.
You want to know?
we'd all like to know what is with Del Rio, because after Summerfest, you came out and said, I'm not going after that Intercontinental title anymore. I'm done with commentary. It's time to focus on my career, move to that next level, move to the main event, become as big, if not bigger, than Danny Jackpot or Smokey or any of them who's been established. And then here comes Alberto Del Rio talking trash and saying, that spotlight belongs to me.
Well, I went out there like a man. I was defeated, but I was humble about it. I was like, well, congratulations to Cody Rhodes. I set the record at 560 days. You broke it. You stopped the reign. Now let's see what you can do with the belt. Because I don't care about it anymore. I care about the one big thing, and that's the big gold belt. That's being the main event. That's being the world champion. But I also knew at the time, like I figured out way down the road after, you know, being in the moment, I figured out the only way I'm going to get people to stop saying I'm not going to be the world champion, or they don't believe me or see me as world champion. Only way I'm going to stop all that is if I quit commentating. By that time, you know, after I lost the Intercontinental title, I knew it was gut check time. I had to make a choice. It's either you stop there, you're happy with your life, you go to commentary, you sign your release on the Superstar form, you become permanent commentator. That's not me. That's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I set out to do in WEDF. I set out to be world champion, main eventer. I set out to be bigger than Danny Jackpot and still believe I can be. I still believe I can be, Frank. So that's why I sat out there and I set myself straight. I said, you know, it's time to quit dicking around. It's time to be the man. It's time to be in the spotlight. Then Del Rio comes out. And Del Rio, as we all understand, ladies and gentlemen, he makes his impacts by getting in other people's business.
And then involving his cronies with him.
Well, still, let me put it to you like this, for example. How did he debut? Here's Rey Mysterio minding his own business. Del Rio comes out and injures him. Here's Danny Jackpot and Kurt Angle having one big match to finally determine who's going to be the better man when they're one-on-one. Here comes Del Rio attacking Kurt Angle. For what? We don't know. We probably never will. Other than the obvious reason of, it's like the whole thing about it is just, well, did Danny make a deal with Del Rio? Did Del Rio do some of this? Did Del Rio do something of that? I don't understand why you get involved with Kurt Angle's business from there, but then you realize, Del Rio...
I guess it's because Del Rio thinks he should be in the spotlight because he's this rich, powerful Mexican superstar who thinks everything should be handed to him on the silver platter.
Yeah, but the point I was... that's the way to put it. The point I was going to make, though, is that Del Rio thrives off leeching others, if that makes sense. He gets involved in other people's business. He starts something with them, and you know what happens? He gets embarrassed. Name one time Alberto Del Rio got involved in somebody's business and didn't pay the price for it. The only time I can think of is Rey Mysterio. And that's because Rey Mysterio's getting up there in his age, and he can't move as fast as he used to.
Very true.
He ain't going to do it to Angle. Because even as he is right now, Angle is still a hell of a competitor, and he's still sharper than you think he is. He didn't do it to Lashley, because Lashley's going to run you over. This is where I'm thinking, why are you going to do this to me, Del Rio? Why are you going to sit there and get involved in my business and say you deserve this, or you deserve that, when you ain't done nothing? Nothing! No thing to deserve exactly what you get. You want to be the spotlight? Fine. You can start trying to beat me. But let's roll up the statistics here. I am the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. Former World Tag Team Champion. Former Hardcore Champion. A man who holds one victory over Brock Lesnar. Alberto Del Rio. Can you think of anything he's done, Frank?
He claimed it was destiny to become...
Exactly. You can't think of nothing because the point is Del Rio knows he can't do it. That's why he's trying to leech off other people, you see. He gets involved in other people's business because he thinks he can make himself look good that way. Well, if he wants to get involved in my business, I tell you what, he's going to get the same thing that everybody else is going to get who's been in my way once before. Foot up his ass, fist down his throat, and a slap on the back all the way to the locker room you go because you ain't good enough to roll with me.
I thought you were about to say slap on the butt.
Get your head out of the gutter, Frank.
But anyway, you're focused on Alberto Del Rio right now, but once you're done with business with him, what are your thoughts on the WEDF roster, and who would you actually like to face in a match in the future?
There's plenty of people. Sheamus mainly. That's one of the main ones I'd like to see. CM Punk.
Actually, you're actually going to be in a World Heavyweight Championship match with CM Punk on the next Smackdown.
And I'll get to my thoughts of that soon, Frank. Wouldn't you know? I'd like to get some more time with Angle. I always like facing Bryan no matter what. More matches with the new and improved Dolph Ziggler, so they say. More matches with The Rock. More matches with Shawn Michaels. I want to face basically everybody who's in the same spot that either I'm in right now or the spot I want to be in. Meaning the young rising stars like Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler, all the way up to the established main eventers like CM Punk and The Undertaker. That's who I'm setting my sights on. Because I feel like everybody who's not at that level, Frank, I don't care about them. That's not what I want to deal with.
You think you can break the streak?
Do I think I can break the streak? You're kidding, right? Fuck.
That's one of the most legendary streaks of all time. No one has beaten The Undertaker.
Here's the problem with that.
Are you ready?
If I be honest with it, I know people are going to look at me and say, you're full of shit. But at the same time, I know there's my fans out there who would chomp at the bit if they ever heard one little rumor that this iconic shaman wanted to try to step in the ring with the dead man at the grandest stage of them all and try his luck at breaking the streak. Am I ready for it, Frank? Do you want me to be honest?
Be honest.
No. I'm nowhere near ready to break the streak. Which is why I also know I'm nowhere near ready to compete for the World Heavyweight Championship. At least I think in my own mind, but I'm honored that there's so many people out there who voted in the first ever WEDF active poll you did that they wanted me actually to face CM Punk. And here's the problem with facing Punk. You know, Punk's at the top of his game right now. He's as sharp as a tool. The sharpest tool in the shed probably right now on the blue brand. The problem with facing CM Punk right now is that he's on a roll and he's hard to stop. While I am coming off the two biggest losses of the whole season. And I constantly have the cartel on my back. So really, Frank, do I think I'm going to win the world title? Skeptically, because I'm my own worst critic, so to say. I'm my own worst critic. I'm always going to say no. But then I slap myself and I look in that mirror and I say, what the hell are you thinking? You're going to sit there and say, no, you can't beat CM Punk. You can't go out there and break the streak. Did your mama drop you on your head too much when you were a baby? Where's your damn pride at? Go get yourself a cheap bottle of Thunderbird and dig up some damn courage like you had in your prime. Not that I'm out of my prime or anything. I just thought of that little line from King of the Ring 1996, if I'm not mistaken. You know the one who said that, Frank.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to sit here as confident, as smug, as determined, as poised as I am to break out and make it big with the big names and run with the bulls and sit here and be like, well, now all of a sudden I can't do this. What kind of sense does it make to fight for so long only to decide you don't got what it takes? Makes no damn sense.
You gotta believe in your mind that you can take Punk to the limit and possibly even beat him.
That's the thing about CM Punk that I don't think he understands. Punk is facing a man who has nothing left to lose. I've already lost the Intercontinental title. I've already been shown I'm vulnerable. I've already been shown I'm not as sharp as I thought I was as Intercontinental Champion. But you know what I know? I know when a man has nothing left to lose, that just means he has everything to fight for. That means nothing is impossible, Frank. That means when CM Punk steps in the ring with the iconic Shaman, he is going to get the fight of his life. And if he's not careful, the one thing that means the whole world to him, that World Heavyweight Championship is going to fall into the clasp of a young old country boy from Mobile, Alabama. An iconic Shaman who will quickly kick CM Punk in the back of the head and look at him and say, best in the world? Not by a long shot, boy. Here he is. 6'8", 300 pounds. Iconic Shaman, Oshujax.
There you have it. There's a couple more questions I'd like to ask you. What would you think about facing Matt Eichorn in the future and settling a long grudge, or is that really not ready yet for you to consider.
That's why I don't have him on my list right now, actually, because he's the generation rival, if that makes sense. He's the guy you face way down the line.
He's like the Cena to your Batista.
Well, yeah, you could put it like that, or he's the Hogan to my Warrior, or he's the He's kind of like currently, if you look in NJPW, he's kind of like the Tanahashi to my Okada, if that makes sense. But in a way, I want to, or no, not Tanahashi, not Okada. Nakamura would be more fitting for the Japanese wrestling fans. Nakamura would be more fitting. He's the guy I want to face way down the line because I want to see how far he's come and how far I've come, and I want us to have just a spectacle of a match. I want us to have a match that'll have the people talking for years. You know what I mean? I don't want to have it right now. Because then when you look back 5 years or 3 years down the line, who's going to remember the match? Nobody. Nobody's going to look at that match, and especially. That's why I want us to have some time. I want us to get as big as we can be. Then, the irresistible force meets the immovable object. The two biggest stars of their generation finally go at it head up to determine who's the best.
I tell you what, that'll be one hell of a contest when it happens. But anyway, another one is, what were your thoughts whenever I was taken out by The Miz?
My thoughts of it?
Yeah.
My thoughts of it is, well, he's going to do it to you and not do it to me, then I better be ready because, hell, if he's going to do it to you, then I might look at Bret Hart and make the wrong choice and say, look, I have no choice. He hit me first. I ain't going to sit there and back down from a fight. When I thought about it, it was sad to see you go, but I knew you'd be back. I knew you would, and I knew somebody would come in and whoop his ass. And somebody did.
And Jeff Hardy is that WEDF champion. Miz is embroidered with the vengeful Cactus Jack. And you know Stone Cold Steve Austin still wants a piece of him too.
Mm-hmm. And that's where you realize if you're a Miz's spot, it's better to keep your friends or not. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. No, that's not the right one. The right one to say would be for Miz. You go off making your bed, making enemies out of everybody. Now you want to sit there and act like you wants to sit there and act like he can still take them all on, or he might have one little thought of regret in his mind, like, well, maybe I don't want to do this. Hey, Miz, you made your bed. It's time to lie in it, and it's coming, and you ain't gonna like it.
Anything else you would like to add to this interview?
Ain't nothing else I can think of unless you want something else.
I believe that's about it, and that's going to wrap up this interview segment with the former Intercontinental Champion Oshujax. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time. I believe next time we'll be interviewing the former United States Champion, Matt Eichorn. We'll see you later. Also butts.
Also butts.
Also butts.